After months of searching up Lithuanian organizations like the VAT, ARAS, and Military Special Forces, all for YouTube video research, I have to wonder if I'm on this next organization's watch list. Well, if I'm not on their watch list already, maybe doing research on them will inadvertently get me or my home's IP address on their radar. Not that it's my intention. Okay, but the topic of today's video is the organization known as the VSD, or VALSTYBės Saugumo Departamentas. In English, this translates to the State Security Department. Because this government organization's main activities are intelligence and counterintelligence, the most well-known equivalent organization internationally would be the CIA, or Central Intelligence Agency in the United States. And so let's look at the history and the current state of this Lithuanian organization and what qualifications you would need if you were interested in joining. Okay, so let's start with the history. Lithuania was established as a modern state in 1918. With the establishment of the government came an intelligence unit and special services of this newly independent nation. Although it might have had the same role and duties, the name of the unit and organization changed multiple times over the next 17 years. From August to December 1923, it was called the Criminal Department B of the Ministry of the Interior, and then from 1924 to 1926, it was called the Unit of Political Police, and then at the beginning of 1927, it became Criminal Police Board Unit A. And then in 1928, it became known as the first unit of the Criminal Police Board. And then, finally, in 1933, it was reorganized to become the State Security Department. And so, June 1st, 1933 is considered to be the official establishment date of the VSD. You will probably already know that Lithuania was occupied by the Soviet Union from 1940. And so once this happened, those working for the VSD had to flee, or hide, and or change their names. Some were arrested and sent to Siberia and or sentenced to death. And then on March 26, 1990, the VSD was re-established by the newly independent government of Lithuania. The VSD's website says that, at the time, its main task was to collect information about the plans of structures hostile to the independence of Lithuania. Structures that wanted to return Lithuania to the composition of the USSR and to overthrow the legitimate leadership of the Republic of Lithuania by force. The State Security Department would eventually go on to broaden its scope and investigate other criminal offenses posing threats to the security of the state. This government department would undergo some reforms and name changes and reorganization in the following years, but ultimately we know it as the VSD today, and it operates according to a detailed intelligence law which was established and revised several times over the 2010s. As is stated on the VSD's website, the main mission of the State Security Department is to supply Lithuania's decision makers with information that would enable them to make sound decisions concerning future actions in the political and social spheres of the country's life. Information might range from aggressive plans and intentions of foreign governments that are hostile to Lithuania to the spread of dangerous contagious diseases. However, the State Security Department usually collects and provides information related to risks and threats to national security. The State Security Department focuses on long-term priorities of preserving Lithuania's sovereignty, the integrity of its territory, as well as constitutional order. Looking at risks to defensive and economic power, energy security, information, and cybersecurity are also within the scope of the VSD. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, intelligence and counterintelligence are the two main activities. Intelligence is defined by the VSD as the collection, analysis, and provision of information concerning external threats to national security. Meanwhile, counterintelligence is the collection, analysis, and provision of information concerning internal threats to national security and their neutralization. It also includes monitoring hostile actions of foreign intelligence and security services in Lithuania and neutralizing threats posed by these actions. The State Security Department is the only civilian intelligence service in Lithuania, but military intelligence and counterintelligence is carried out by the 2nd Investigation Department under the Ministry of National Defense. I would imagine most of the VSD's activities are connected to either Belarusian or Russian individuals or groups. While I'm sure there is a lot of stuff the VSD keeps to itself, it does publish a public annual report called a National Threat Assessment. This is a super interesting publication. If you're interested, you can check out the English versions of reports at this address, which I'll try to remember to leave in the video description as well. Opening up the report, yeah, I was right. There is a lot of reporting on Russia and Belarus. Here are some of the key points in the 2024 report.
Russia is not stopping its aggression against Ukraine and has the resources to continue the war for at least 2 more years. Almost entire Russian economy is subordinated to the war, even at the expense of the welfare of its people. Russia's war industry has managed to adapt to the needs of the front. The Kremlin has found ways to circumvent at least some of the sanctions. A small circle of Russia's international partners is supplying the weapons needed for the war, but the Russian economy stands on shaky foundations. Structural problems will deepen in the long term. It is preparing for a long-term military confrontation with NATO. Military units are being formed in Western Russia. Belarus is also being armed and is gradually exchanging its sovereignty for greater Russian support. Minsk is stepping up its intelligence activities against Lithuania, taking advantage of the growing Belarusian diaspora in Lithuania. China is expanding its arsenal of measures against Lithuania. Cyber groups linked to China are seeking to infiltrate the state institutions' networks. Beijing is increasingly interested in Lithuania's domestic and foreign policy issues. Hostile forces are not only spying, but also seeking to influence processes in Lithuania. Malicious actors are spreading false information in line with Russian interests. They seek to break the will of Lithuania and the West to support Ukraine.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. But these are just a few points mentioned in the executive summary. But the 80-page report has so much detail and information that it's definitely something that I could do a video about every year with each new annual report. So if you haven't subscribed but are interested in this kind of topic, do be sure to follow this channel. And then in terms of becoming a part of the VSD, here's what the career page has to say on the topic. Most of our work is invisible, and the goal of our daily work is to send a timely warning, preempting and preventing threats to national security. This is why we say that the events that never happen are the most important to us. At the time of making this video, the VSD's website says that it's currently looking for intelligence and counterintelligence officers as well as information technology specialists. And so, according to the Intelligence Law of the Republic of Lithuania, a candidate for intelligence officers must be a citizen of the Republic of Lithuania, must be of impeccable reputation, must not be younger than 18 years, but not older than 55 years, and must be cleared to handle classified information. If you meet these criteria, then there's a multi-stage selection process that candidates will undergo. I won't go over all 6 steps in detail, but it's pretty much what you would expect. Interviews, aptitude tests, psychological evaluations, background checks, etc. The process takes an average of about 6 months, but it can be longer. While I could find quite a few stories of Russian and Belarusian spies caught in Lithuania, it was harder for me to find stories of VSD agents, which I suppose is an overall positive. I did, however, find a story about a Lithuania-Russia spy/prisoner swap that took place in 2019. But such stories are nonetheless quite interesting to hear, and I guess that's what gives agencies like the CIA its featuring role in so many Hollywood movies, where individuals go deep undercover and lead a completely different life to collect intelligence. The most recent crazy story took place in early August when there was a prisoner swap between Russia and the West. The children of a Russian spy couple apparently didn't even know they were Russian. Their parents posed as an Argentine couple living in Slovenia when they were jailed there. After arriving in Russia, it was said that these children didn't even know who Vladimir Putin was, even as their parents were greeted by the Russian president after getting off the plane.
The children knew no Russian and were greeted in Spanish, according to a Kremlin spokesperson. The group, upon arrival, were congratulated by Putin, and those in the military service were told they would be nominated for state awards.
I guess it's only fair that I mention that in June, a Belarusian court found a Lithuanian woman guilty of spying. The VSD called the verdict, quote-unquote, baseless insinuations. It was reported that the woman was an employee of Belarus, a Belarusian-owned sanatorium in Lithuania's southern city of Druskininkai. The 59-year-old woman was accused of repeatedly passing on information about incoming guests, including high-ranking Belarusian officials. It was alleged that she was recruited by Lithuanian special services more than 10 years ago, and then she was detained by Belarusian authorities last year after she went to the country to visit her family. Well, I guess that's the tricky thing about this whole shadowy world of espionage. You could just be a journalist going about your job with no actual affiliation to any intelligence agency, and still you could be accused and convicted of spying. Or you could live your normal-looking life and actually be a spy. Whatever the case may be, it's very, very unlikely that your home government would ever admit to you being an intelligence agent. Anyways, I hope this video has given you some sense of what the VSD is all about, as well as its long history of serving the Republic of Lithuania. And well, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you enjoy this channel and want to support me in making more videos, please consider becoming a Patreon patron. There's a link down in the description for you to check out. Thanks so much for watching.